World of Warcraft is a game that has been with us for over 20 years, but over those years it has changed significantly. In its early days, it functioned more like an alternative social network, a place where people met, talked, and the game focused on a completely different type of gameplay. Over time, it evolved into a very different model that isn't just defined by socializing, but by a lot of other elements. These elements turned the game into a virtual sandbox for a variety of different players. Yet WoW still tries to hold onto the MMORPG genre. What I want to look at, however, is whether the game has lost its original identity during its evolution. Today we have many versions of World of Warcraft, from the base vanilla classic through Mist of Pandaria to the 20th anniversary version currently in the TBC expansion. And then we have the most current version, Retail, and its newest expansion, Midnight. While I'm playing Classic and the new Retail expansion, I started wondering if WoW has lost its soul. I wanted to compare them, so I decided to create two characters. A Hunter in Classic version and a Rogue in a Retail. I decided to level both of these characters to level 20. In my opinion, this is a great milestone that clearly shows how the game treats us as players. In TBC Classic, I decided to play as a Draenei. It felt thematic to the expansion. It fled from the Draenor, now Outland, to Azeroth, crash landed, and we are now looking for allies against the Burning Legion. It ties perfectly into the theme from Warcraft 3. At the starting zone, Azure Isles, is beautiful. Right from the start, I loved that I had to manage my arrows as a hunter. It gave my class so much more immersion. I actually felt like I was shooting something tangible. And arrows didn't just magically generate. And if an enemy got into a melee range, well, I had to pull out my sword. The hunter in a retail doesn't have most of these mechanics anymore, which is a shame, because in a classic, it gives the character, and especially the class, much more weight. I also liked that I didn't have massive health and mana regeneration. I had to stop, eat and drink, basically take a rest. The pacing was pleasant. The game wasn't rushing me anywhere. After 46 minutes, I left the starting area, which acted as a tutorial zone. It taught me how to use my racial ability, how to visit a trainer to learn new skills, and sent me to the next town, Azure Watch. Azure Watch served as a quest hub for my next adventures. During my travels, I met other players, had some interactions, and because I had to walk everywhere and explore, the zone felt huge. Around level 10, I got a special class quest to tame a pet, which is a core part of being a hunter. I had a series of quests where I temporarily tamed different animals to learn how to tame my own. What I loved about this system was that I had to take care of my pet and feed it to build its loyalty towards me. I could even teach it new tricks, which again gave my class more weight, compared to retail, where a hunter just has a pet immediately. Here I reached this milestone naturally through the game's pacing after almost 4 hours, and it felt rewarding. I also appreciated how the game slowly taught me what my character was capable of. First just a crossbow and a sword, then a serpent sting and an arcane shot. My rotation evolved, applied a poison sting, fire a magic arrow, and then either kite the enemy, waiting for cooldowns, or finish them off in a melee. Once I got my pet, micromanagement came into play. I had to tell pet when he should attack, to hold aggro so I could shoot from a distance. I felt like I was climbing a mountain, slowly unlocking new possibilities, and I really enjoyed that. I left the first zone at level 12. After just under 5 hours. It didn't even feel that long, but it was time to move on to Blood Mist Isle. Blood Mist Isle had a great, slightly darker atmosphere than Azure. I was sent there as a new recruit to help, and honestly, they didn't give me much of a chance of survival. But looks can be deceiving. After 9 hours, I was quite confident in my skills, and I felt I finally understood how my class worked. Along with my magic and poison shots, I gained a slowing shot, multi-shot for AoE damage, and an ability to drop aggro, so the enemy would target my pet or the tank. And if someone did to get into the melee, I had a wing clip, ready to slow them down, allowing me to jump back and start shooting from a distance again. Thanks to its pacing, the game really feels like climbing a mountain, where every new level is a well-deserved reward, whether it is a talent point or a brand new ability. I also got traps, but at this stage they didn't seem that amazing, so I rarely used them. Hunter is overall a very strong class, and that's what made it fun. I managed to solo most of the group conquest. A perfect example is the final elite quest where you have to escort an engineer with the bombs to blow up a key Blood Elf position and kill their leader. On one hand, it felt amazing, but on the other, it slightly undermined what people always say about old WoW, the necessity to find groups and socialize. Even if you don't talk to others during a hard quest, just grouping up gives the game a sense of community. As a solo hunter, I kinda missed out on that. During this quest, I hit level 20. This was supposed to be the end of my experience. But over the time I had built a bond with my character, and I wanted to see her story through. After completing a suicide mission, there was a beautiful conclusion. All the characters I met during my adventures gathered. I received recognition, a heroic title, and was sent out into the world to find allies and return to Outland. It was a great ending. After 11 hours of my playtime, I didn't just get NPC recognition, but also a tabard, as a symbol of completing my task. Sure, almost every Draenei has it, but for me, it was an achievement. What else is worth mentioning? Well, during this whole journey, I didn't run a single dungeon. The reason is simple. In Classic, you have to physically walk to it, or someone has to summon you. The appropriate dungeon for my level was on another continent. That would mean abandoning my current zone, traveling a long way, and as a DPS, waiting for a long time to find a group. This is a massive difference compared to retail. There I would just open the dungeon finder, the group would form itself, the game will teleport me inside, and after killing the final boss, drop me right back where I was. The world in Classic feels like a much bigger place, precisely because this system is missing. Nevertheless, my hunter reached level 20 and went to rest in the XLR. After this experience, I have a huge urge to continue her adventure. In retail, I started my adventure with a rogue. At the start, I hit the first major difference. I could choose whether to start in the classic Blood Elf zone, Sunstrider Isle, or in the unified starting zone Exile's Reach. I chose the classic one because it felt more immersive for my race. With every level, my spells automatically popped into my action bar, making class stages completely irrelevant. I also noticed a double edge buff. Because I already have a max level character, I get 25% more experience. On one hand, it's great that the game rewards me for my past time invested, but on the other hand, I kinda wish I could turn it off. I also decided not to use heirlooms until level 20. While they no longer give extra experience, they just slow down the drain of the rest XP, they do something else. They provide bonus stats, meaning leveling poses zero threat. Without them, I occasionally had moments where I actually had to pay attention. And I like that, it gave the game a sense of danger, similar to Classic. However, the journey itself didn't feel as engaging. Sure, the rogue was fun, I didn't even mind the automatic spell placement on my action bar that much. Because I already have some experience with WoW, I generally knew what each ability did. What threw me off was the pacing and the things around it. For example, I received food that restored 0 health per second. And instead of just eating, I had a special ability where my character set up the campfire and prepared the food. It felt hollow and weird, especially compared to the classic resting from old WoW. After an hour of playing, I hit level 10. And that in my opinion is where the massive turning point happened. The game basically tells you, here is a mount, start riding so you can achieve your goals faster. Riding a mount significantly shrinks the world. Added to that automatic unlocking of all flight master paths, thanks to the warband systems from the War Within expansion, which synchronize progress across your account, which is nice, but also limits the connection you build with a new character, because so many things are unlocked beforehand. But on the other hand, the game is rewarding me for my previous achievements, which is a topic for a much longer debate. The talent trees are also very different from Classic. Well, in Classic, I could distribute points across different specializations and experiment a bit more. In Retail, I choose one specialization, and it functions as a closed ecosystem, where I slowly pick my path and unlock talents. A nice advantage in Retail though is that I can save several builds, and changing the class doesn't cost gold like it does in Classic. Roughly 2 hours and 40 minutes in, at level 15, I arrived into the Ghostlands. Because I had a mount and could ride everywhere, I couldn't focus on the surrounding landscape as much. The speed simply robbed me of some immersion. Related to this is another thing that completely put me off, the feeling of rewards. In Classic, you are incredibly happy when you find a piece of gear with some rarity, whatever green or blue, because the color actually means rarity and a power spike. Here, I got an upgrade from a quest. My grey armor turned into a rare blue, but it gave me absolutely zero stat increase. It felt almost like a slap in the face. What was the point of this upgrade? It makes as much sense as that apple restoring 0 health. It just feels like a cheap participation trophy. Overall, the journey felt like riding an elevator. You occasionally stop at the intermediate floor for a quick snack, but the game is constantly pushing you to get to the newest expansion as fast as possible. I hit level 20 after about 4 hours. I have to say, from my perspective, the journey was mid. It didn't carry nearly the same weight as in Classic, though I admit it had its harder moments. Regular quest items weren't enough for Elite Quest, which makes sense. But just as a test, I tried equipping heirlooms, and the difference in difficulty was immediately noticeable. But, to avoid just criticizing, there is one great positive, Chromie time. From level 10, you can go to her and choose any previous expansion you want to replay, or experience for the first time. This is a brilliant system. Previously, players had to linearly grind through all the expansions. It loosened up a bit around Legion and Battle for Azeroth expansions, where at level 58 you choose Northern Outland, and at level 78, Cataclysm or Pandaria. But still, you had to physically journey across the world with your character. Or of course, you could just sit in the capital city and spam dungeons. Though, hand on the heart, if you don't play a tank or healer, you'll be waiting at that queue for a while. After my adventures in Classic and Retail, I noticed a clear difference. While Classic is about the adventure itself and the journey which I can pause at any time and still feel like I have accomplished something, Retail just doesn't work that way. As I said earlier, Classic is climbing a mountain, while Retail is an elevator that relentlessly pulls you to the very end. When I compare the fact that reaching level 20 in one version took me almost 12 hours and in the other only 4, it clearly tells me where the modern WoW is, directing me straight to the endgame. The game has detached itself from the original concept of a marathon, which ended with a massive grind in dungeons, raids, or PvP. Today, I wouldn't be afraid to say that retail has become a giant theme park, and I don't necessarily mean that in a bad way. You have an incredible amount of activities there. You can collect armor for transmog, mounts, or battle pets. You can look forward to building and decorating your own house, or you can dive into competitive mythic dungeons, raids, and PvP, or pick more casual content, like delves or prey system. Every single one of these activities has its own audience. There are people who simply love these parts of the game, and that is exactly the best thing about the current WoW, how many options it offers. Everyone can find exactly the playstyle that suits them best. So, has WoW lost its identity? In my opinion, it hasn't changed that much. I could deep dive into the story or other things and talk about them, but I will say this instead. With every new expansion, the world slowly fades from WoW. Instead of growing and feeling massive, with each expansion, the game paradoxically shrinks. It's perfectly visible in retail, where the original aspect, the social one, and the feeling of massive shared world have collapsed into a specific region where the current content is. And I think that's a mistake. After all, an expansion is supposed to expand the world, not make it feel emptier and smaller.